Welcome to Social Sessions. I'm delighted to be joined with a wonderful guest who is here to tell us an amazing story of character, heartache, ups and downs, and most importantly, to tell us about Cocaine Anonymous. Due to the very nature of CA, we cannot speak about or talk about any individuals within the group, but we can talk about the steps that individuals take in recovering from addiction. We will hear the highs and the lows of recovery, the battles won and lost, but ultimately a tale about one man's journey to peace, contentment and freedom. It's a delight to introduce Boab Keenan. How you doing, Bob?
Hi, Sean. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. All better for having you on here. So I'm just going to kind of take you back into your own history, just kind of talk about growing up in Cumbernauld, stuff like that, and kind of how you developed as a person. What was it like growing up in Cumbernauld?
So I was actually thinking about this today, and you were going to ask me a question similar to this. So as you know, Cumbernauld was one of 5 new towns that were created in Scotland through the overspill for Glasgow. You know, I think after the Beveridge Report, and a lot of people don't know about the Beveridge Report, but after the Second World War, there was a Beveridge Report that came out and it looked at the 5 wants. You know, I can tell you 3 off the top of my head. It was poverty, housing and medical care, which created the NHS. There's another 2 that I can't remember the top of my head. But one of the big things that did come out of that was a need for adequate housing out with what there was then the slums of Glasgow. So they built these new towns. And obviously you're a resident of one as I am. Cumbernauld was the one that my family went to. So when my family moved out to Cumbernauld, initially my gran and my granddad, they went for a single, my gran in particular, my granny Cathy, they went for a single end house. They had an outside toilet, you know, and they all stayed in one room, you know. And they moved out to Seafar, and Seafar being an area of Cumbernauld. And they got this 3-bedroom house that had a downstairs toilet that was inside the house, and the central heating, you know, the big king, you know what I mean? And so it was, to them, it was remarkable. And the thing was, for me growing up, that it was like, that's all I knew. So I didn't know the want of poverty that Glasgow had at that time. No, we didn't have a lot of money, but we were definitely not in severe poverty as we would maybe get if you're in one of these African nations or the Middle East or so forth. But we grew up, we know a lot, but with enough, you know, to be sustainable and to have a good life. So my family were really blessed that way. So I really got a lot of time for Cumbernauld. A lot of people call it a shithole. You know, a concrete jungle.
I get voted the worst town.
I get the Carbuncle Award twice, you know, which has been voted the worst town in the UK, not once but twice. They were actually drawing a comparison to Kabul, but they thought that's an insult in Kabul, which is definitely get bombed by the Americans at the time. Yeah, which kind of gives you an idea of the kind of town it's maybe infrastructure what it looks like, but it's definitely a concrete jungle. But the thing for me, what I love about it is that I know everybody within that community. I'd like guys like yourself and who were from a different area of the town, but I know guys who, like their experiences, what happened to you and so forth in the past and that. And a lot of other people, undesirables that we know, but the undesirables are people I'm desired to go towards.
I love them.
Because it's like the people that I gravitate towards, you know, and when you look back at my experiences growing up in that town, it was a concrete jungle, and there wasn't much infrastructure there. You know, the places like they had a cinema that closed down when we grew up. There was no cinema there when I grew up. They dice rink, that shut down. You know, they opened up the roller disco not long ago, that shut down. So a lot of things that come into the town don't last long. You know, and the only things that we have got that's sustainable the days of fast food. Fast foods on
used to have
one McDonald's. We've got 2 McDonald's. You know, so to keep us nice and fat. But there's no lot today. But what I've known in my experiences is a periods of an own, Sean, as I've got like older and I've started going expanding outside of Cumbernauld. It's a great town because you've got motorways that lead in every direction. You know, where we stay, you know, I drive 5 minutes, I'm on the motorway, it can take me north. If I go 5 minutes away, it can take me the motorway, it takes me south, you know. So for me, it's a great base to go anywhere else, you know, out with the town. But the town I know gets a lot of bad publicity, but it's a beautiful town. There's really good, I mean, Cumbernauld Fields, you know, you've got the Buckbatapa with Dalton and all that, and just on the edge, you've got the Antonine Trail that goes through it, you've got great walkways up Palace Rig, you know. I think it's unfair, the bad press it gets. Label. You know, the label it gets to me. I love the place, man. You know.
So, just like kind of obviously school and stuff. Obviously, we were kind of grew up in the 90s when, and that kind of recurring theme through this podcast, Bob, has been like how it was kind of hard to grow up in housing schemes and how you were kind of put in a position maybe that you wouldn't have felt if you were in an affluent area, as in. Maybe nobody would go into certain areas because you were for there and you had pals for here and you had pals for there, and it was hard, you know what I mean, growing up. And I think a lot of this is creeping back in with the young team. You can see it, and it's heartbreaking because you just know where it's going. What was your experiences with that?
It's a good question. So the situation in Urton in particular, there's a motorway that goes right through the centre of it. You've got the north of the town, and you've got the south and everything that's round about. The north's very affluent. You know, you've got Westerwood, you've got Dalter, you've got Craig Marlock and so forth. They're very affluent areas. But then you've got the south, so the areas I grew up, I was originally Facle Drum, moved up to Avonhill as a boy and grew up in Avonhill. And as you know, Avonhill being one of the least desirable areas. You know, I think you were Greenfalls yourself.
Cundora, Cundora, doing that way.
Doing that way anyway. They were pals anyway, Greenfalls and Cundora at times, you know.
No, when I grew up, that's what I'm saying, that's how quick it changes, you know what I mean?
So there was, whereas our arch enemies was Cabrini.
I know.
So we had a lot of, it's funny, you know, if you read Graham Armstrong's book, The Young Team.
And The Young Team, I haven't, you know what, I've supposed to, Graham, I was talking to Graham and I'm hoping to get him on here, and that's two people, Chris Dolan, who's an author, he was on, and he was talking about the book as well, saying how great it was as well. So maybe you can tell us a wee bit about it.
Right, so I'd done a podcast in the past and I mentioned it because this girl who I knew in particular, she interviewed him. So I said, well, I better look at this book. And I swear to God, I was absolutely infatuated with the whole book, right, from start to finish, because the experiences that he talks about in the book is experiences we grew up with. You know, that tribalism, one scheme versus other scheme, you know, and the growing, the youth going for the age of young age where it was all about coming into our area to then getting a wee bit older and saying, right, wait a now, we can start selling a bit of gear here, we can start making a bit of dough, we can get a bit of coin, to then using the substances that we were so-called meant to be selling. I was like, me in particular, you know, you were better getting a monkey bananas to sell than me selling fucking drugs. And that's the truth of it. You know, I took more than I sold. So I was the world's worst drug dealer. But I had a lot of people who ran about me who were successful to a degree. You know what I mean? But a lot of them end up with lengthy prison sentences, as you know. So as you go through that book, that's the narrative it takes. It talks about the tribal stuff, you know, the gang fighting, you know, because this is your scheme versus your scheme, and the dangers and the things that come along with that, Sean. I mean, you know that you've seen firsthand, but the magnitude and the traumatic events that causes. You know, there was a particular, I'll not name his name, but you know the guy I'm talking about. When we were younger, there was a party in Cumbernauld, the Chwan Corbies, and there was boys who were doing their Fabian Hill. And this one boy in particular, they knew that it was boys Fabian Hill. The boy from Cumbernauld came down, a machete get pulled out. And there's this boy who I know, who's a bit younger than me, but I know the boy well. He was about to get hit with this machete. And as the boy went to hit with a machete, he pulls the machete back and it goes through his mate's behind him's face, right through his eye and out the back of his head. The boy died instantly. Well, I don't know if he died instantly, but he died anyway.
I know.
I think he was maybe alive for a bit, but he did. It wasn't. He was definitely.
I know both parties in that, and I like both parties. You know what I mean? So it's like it's as you say, and you were there at that night. So I mean, that's traumatising to see.
Yeah, of course.
And it's things like that. I think that when you're younger, you don't really take on board that. I mean, I never really progressed into the kind of drug dealing stuff and all that. That was I was in prison kind of early. Do you know what I mean? And but a lot of my friends who I did go about with kind of did go that way, and then you had the other ones that went and started families, and you had so as you say, it's like the group of friends that you go about with. Some started taking drugs, and they fell into that hole. Some fell into the kind of, and I don't see anybody any different. I always just see them as just still my pals. Do you know what I mean? I don't, but a lot of people fell out, and a lot of people done this and that while I was in prison. So obviously, just kind of taking you back. What was it kind of? Did you see a lot of stuff? Like were you privy to a lot of stuff that happened then, Bob?
The issue that we obviously just similar to that experience in the book. We were the young team, so our young team was Avonhill young team. I used to face the CYF. So where I was in the periphery. I was a periphery guy. I wasn't Don't get me wrong, I could look after myself. I could honour myself to the degree I thought I could probably then, but I probably couldn't. Does that make sense? I got into martial arts as a wee bit older, and I got into Muay Thai, and I became a Scottish amateur champion. And I probably became a better fighter, obviously, because I learned how to fight. I didn't really use that then, because then I got sober, but that's a story we can talk about maybe later on in the interview. So I was always in the periphery where I was there when things happened, but I didn't take it maybe as far as some people took it. Does that make sense? So,
totally.
You know.
No, I was kind of similar with that. Like, we were like kicking about, and obviously Papa Docs and stuff like that, and then Cabaret, I was a bit of a scheme hopper. I kind of kicked about Avonhill, I kicked about kind of Westfield and wherever, do you know what I mean? So I kind of knew a lot of people, and I was quite well liked, do you know what I mean? But it wasn't like particularly because I was a hard man, it was just I was quite well liked, and I was lucky enough to.
Kind of similar, I know a lot of people. I was the same, I go on well, and this is the thing that I try and talk to my boy about today, and he recognises it now because he's obviously getting a bit older, is that when we all grew up, the reality was it was just, it's like they talk about in London with the gangs down there, it's a difference in a postcode. You know,
totally.
Like, you talk about Peckham, Brixton down there, you know, you go to up south, any major city, it's down to an area or a scheme, maybe the postcode's slightly different, and the fight against each other.
Very similar people.
But they get brought, that's what I was going to say. So the reality is, it's like when you grow up, you recognise, so when I get clean and sober, which I'll talk about later on in this interview, the people who I used to fight with became pals with me. Because why they became pals? Because we had similar interests. Somebody supported the same football team, so there was a tribal element attached to that. Some didn't, which caused a couple of frictions and all, you know. But what you found out is that Maesties became for similar backgrounds and similar experiences. So we were either in a house where mum and dad were maybe still there, but a lot of the time mum and dad has been divorced, you know, and the traumas that come with that. Mum was maybe get brought up with mum rather than mum and dad. Mum get brought up with dad, as the case would be my boys. He get brought up with me rather than his mum and his dad due to addiction issues. So a lot of these traumatic events, you know, were similar, or even more so that our dad hung about with their dad, or even vice versa. Our dads fought with their dads. Do you get what I'm saying?
Generational.
So it's a generational aspect thing, and it spoke about a lot in that book. I know I was talking about earlier on with Graham Armstrong. Is that it's a lot of shite, really, you know. And then where I've been blessed, and I know that you've not been, and with other people who you know that I know, they've ended up going to prison and spending long term in prison. But as you take it, as I think it was Loki, the rapper, speaking about it one time, you know, and when I've been blessed, any time I've been into prison, it's either I've been to visit my mates or to take a message of hope into people with through addiction issues, whether it be through CRA in the past, you know what I mean? But he says it's like it's such a toxic environment when you get into these places because ego's rife. So where it happens is somebody takes your bit of toast and they do it in front of people, then a lot of time the boy's getting slashed for what he did because he can't lose faith, because if he loses faith in anything, he becomes a victim, you know what I mean? And they need to act up to a certain persona. But inside they're dying, they don't want to do it. And you know, and if you take that back to the young team experiences, you know, if I wasn't for all the wine and whatever substances I was taking, I'd have been shiting myself to go and fight with other people because it wasn't funny. The people, as you say, machetes working through people's faces. I've been stabbed before. I've had fucking bottles in my head. I've had bricks in my head. You know, I'm not proud to say it. I've done things that I'm not proud of, that I don't really want to get into depth about, but stuff that I'm not proud of myself. But I've hurt other human beings, you know. And the reality is I'm hurting somebody that's got the same value system as me, or predominantly similar anyway. I'm hurting somebody else that I don't really know that well. Why am I hurting? Because he's from a different fucking area. You know, that was the truth of the reality that a lot is get brought up in. It's frightening, you know.
No, see, I mean, obviously, I was kind of, I was watching, I don't know if you've seen that Banged Up. It's basically celebrities that have been going into prison.
Oh, no, sorry, it's not that, sorry. I was thinking about stuff as prison, sorry.
So what they're doing is they've kind of set a prison environment. So they've got a lot of prisoners who have maybe turned their lives about, and they've go in there and recreate a prison environment, and we're going to fire celebrities in. So the boys have been in and really created a good, it's actually quite lightly and quite canny the way it's done. They've got ex-officers who have been in and done it as well, and so they're creating it just to show the public how much this is not a holiday camp. So there was a Tory MP, now we all know how hard the Tories want to be on justice, right? Tory MP was in for 2 days, right? And obviously was getting a bit of a hard time. So the guy in the cell says to him, this is how you make a weapon. He says, so he burnt the toothbrush, put the razors on the end of it. And this guy was sitting slashing the wall, this MP, Tory MP, going, I like this one. This one's a good, I like that. And that's 2 days he's been in there, in a fake environment. So you imagine taking that into a real environment where it's real, that violence is real, do you know what I mean? How hyper vigilant do you think that's going to make, how desperate does that make people? So no, you're right, Bob, I totally get that with you, do you know what I mean? And so I know obviously you've went up to prisons and all that and met we boys, we know friends and stuff, do you know what I mean? And good boys and stuff like that. So how is that experience? Can you feel that toxicity when you're in? Because I've never really went up to prison as a visitor, but...
So, absolutely. So I'll give you two different experiences, but... So I've went up and visited friends who you know, who I know. One in particular who's been in for a long time, institutionalised to a degree. And I was up with my mate Martin. You know Martin I don't know why I say second name, but you know him anyway. Anyway, he went up to, me and him went to visit this particular friend, really good friend of mine, really good friend. Now, if you were to read anything about this man in particular, people say, oh, he's just evil, he's a bad egg, he's hangman, he's this, he's that. Nothing nice. And to a degree, you can understand why people would get that narrative because they don't know. You know, they've never
got a heart of gold, but
there's a bit of life experiences of what you read. No way life experience to me, but like people who don't know him would put him under a certain category that he's this and he's that. And we went up to see him. Now this guy in particular, just before I go into this story, I was struggling with addiction issues really young, right? So I'm talking about the age of 20-year-old, 21, and I had a cousin who was
as young as that, Bob,
and that's when I eventually stopped drinking when I was 25. I'm 43 now, so I've been no drink for 18 and a half years or something. It was just about that anyway. And I remember at the time, you know, all saying peer pressure's a motherfucker. So when I started to stop drinking in front of a group of environment who 90% of them drank, or even more than 99% drank, and maybe the one or two didn't. But the reality is most of them drank, and they took drugs and that they went with it. And I was trying to stop, you know, I just couldn't go with it. My mental health was shot to shit. I was, for the first time in my life, I was contemplating suicide. You know, depression, and started both showing I had anxiety and a depression. So started off anxiety first, I had this palpitation, thought my heart was kicking all the time.
Horrible.
So I went for that to no caring if my heart kicks in. You know, that's what I did. Could I tell that one was darker? The one was as dark as the other. You know, equally. I couldn't tell you anxiety is worse than depression. I could say depression was anxiety. The two of them.
They go hand in hand.
About one at one time and then horrendous. And I've had a few bouts in that in my life since then, even stuff in recovery, which I'll talk about in due course, you know, because life on life's term stuff. But I remember, you know, I'll never forget this, that you say, he's the only guy that says to me at that time, do you know what, see you resting, fuck them. See if you want to stop, I'm fucking back up. I'm no fucking pressure into doing nothing. Just never mind him, fuck every man of them. That's what he says. And I stopped him at this day. See this day, man, I'll never forget that. I needed that at that time in my life, you know what I mean? But if you read anything about this guy, he just says, oh, he's abhorrent, he's evil, he's this, he's that. And he's a lot of good in him. He's always been good with me. So we went up and visited him only, I'd say about 4 or 5 months ago. Actually, his brother phoned me a week and I've got a visit, but I had to go to Pitlock and I said, tell him I'll come up next week. But you know what he's like, sometimes it's hard to get a holiday, so I've not heard from him since. But he will get back to us. We could not see each other for years and we're still the same close bond as we've ever had. You know, and it's funny because he comes to me for advice now, which is mental because he says, you're the sensible one. I know. It's good to be the sensible one. Because I've never been the sensible one in my life. Now people come to me for advice, which is funny. But I'm up and seeing him and we says to him, and I could talk to him the way that I talk because he's my pal. So I grew up with him, and I'm not disrespectful. I'm honest with him about stuff, or at least my interpretation of what honesty is with him. And there's the guy that was with us is the exact same. And he's funny because he still like talks at the side of the roof sometimes, and he's that. And I says, listen, he says, your pals are here. I says, fuck everybody else. I says, we're your mates. I says, people in here want to see what they can get off you. Totally. I don't want nothing off you. Just want your time, man. He says the same. I says, we want the best for you. I says, see what you want to do. We're here to support you. And we meant it, you know. And it's hard for him because he has to be kind of open up a bit. Whereas he can't do that when he's in it because he's always guarded, because he has to put this persona on, he has to step to this family name, he has to step to this personality because he can't show any sign of weakness, which is horrible. And you see that when you're there, so it's like, and he lets it down a wee bit with me there, but then he has to put it back on to go back out.
It's hard to get vulnerable. I mean, obviously, like you can see it in this banged up, and these guys are going in and they're scared, and it's a fake. It's a fake. That's what I was saying. I was saying that to my partner. I was saying, that's a fake prison setting, and look at them, like they're absolutely terrified. Do you know what I mean? And that MP that get caught fucking with the porn and that in the back of the thing, he went in. So everybody's all slagging him, and it's like that is the real environment is like that. You go in there and you act like a sheep, you'll get treated like one. Do you know what I mean? You need to be, you need to kind of watch yourself, and know that I was never a hard man or anything like that or anything, but you do need to stick up yourself. You need to kind of put that face on, and it's hard. It really is. And trying to drop your ego in a place that thrives on ego, try to drop a place that celebrates violence, try to drop a place that celebrates drug taking, anti-authority behaviour, all this stuff. How do you be that person? And I mean, obviously we've done some prison work, and I've worked with like Natalie and stuff like that, who's absolutely amazing, James Docherty, people who have done amazing stuff in prisons, right? But it's just, you can only get a small amount. Do you know what I mean? There's so many guys that are like traumatized, and I've said it before, it's a lot of it's fueled by fear that they don't understand, because you go like, this is all fear-based. I'm not scared of MD. I'm not saying you're scared of MD, but it's your fear. Like, this is what's fucking killing you, man. Like, it's poisoning you. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's turning you into a person that you don't want to be. It's not, do you know what I mean? So that was always my experience with that, Bob. Do you know what I mean? I kind of see exactly what you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I'm going to read Graham Armstrong's book, because that's a couple of times.
I get the audiobook. I'm lazy. I like to listen to books.
I'll get that. I think I'll do that.
I get to listen to it, you're driving the motor through somewhere. Listen to it. You still want to get the motor.
No, I know. That's
you love it. But the thing is, with the experience I was just going to add to that was, I would then go up to, I would take like Cocaine Anonymous meetings that were through hospitals institution, H&I, and we would get into prisons, and it's a silly experience to take, because you've got guys with different wings are coming in to do a meeting, right? And it's great, and they're looking forward to seeing you, and they genuinely want to see you, right? And then you're trying to give them, which Cocaine Anonymous offers, and which our 12-step program offers, is the 12 steps of recovery, right? Because it's recovery, you can recover, and that's it. That's what they advocate. So you're taking a spiritual program into a prison, you know, and I've been in some hard prison, like Shots, for example, right? You know, it's like that's fucking long-term prisoners, man. Most of the guys are in for like dodgy stuff, as you know, attempted murder, bank robberies, so forth. Heavy enjoyed.
Maybe in Shots.
No. It's all long-term stuff, you know. So it's heavy duty. And you're getting in there to bring a spiritual program. It's a bit of Christian ethics. I love thy neighbour, love yourself behind me. So they're all right when in the meeting, you know. But you know, when they're taken out there, it's hard to do, because of course it's a different set of ideals that you need to live up to. And it's easy to live a program when you're outside a prison. You know, and I've never been in a prison, but I know, because I'm not stupid, I'm rational, I'm logical. It's like it's easy to do it, or easier to do it here, but when you're out there in that environment where you say it's dog eat dog, you know, you can't lose face, you need to show face, and it must be so much more challenging, man. But we still going to meditate, and there's guys in particular, there's two guys in particular in the last 2 years who have come out, one massive long sentence, you know what I mean, two to life of somebody else. It's anonymous. I would never mention his name, but he knows who he is, you know. And he's just, why is this guy excel, man? He's just got this whole new outlook in life, you know, and he's just buzzing. He's buzzing because he stuck it, man. You know, and he took it out. Another guy in same, it was in the long term, and he's now buzzing, mate. I know, and it's just great to see, mate. It's really good.
No, I mean, obviously we had Fritzie Hotsman on the show, who's like Fritzie's like does the Compassion Prison Project in America. So she's like she gets into kind of San Quentin and all that, and it is a different ballgame. I think earlier, like it's with the gangs and stuff. It's kind of mental. Do you know what I mean? But she talks about kind of getting them all in the trauma circle, and she gets them the ACEs, and she gets them to talk, and they all step into the circle. It's called The Wisdom of Trauma. It's really good. Her and Gabor Mate. I
love Gabor Mate stuff. It's great.
Gabor Mate is amazing. So what we're trying to do is obviously just show people like obviously see with compassion, a bit of empathy, and try to understand people's situation. It goes a long way for that person that you're trying to reconnect to himself, because that he's actually he's lost. He's that in touch with himself. He's not actually. I was trying to explain this to people. People can become comfortable in trauma, and people become comfortable in their own like you can easily fall into that victim
mentality. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking in my head, that's exactly what you're talking about. It becomes a victim mentality where people say,
do you know what I mean?
They pat you in the back and they say to you, oh, but sorry, understand how you feel, because I no wonder you're on that way. I understand that. And then there's no autonomy there. So then you just play that, you get into this victim narrative where you start blaming everything and everybody else for your experiences, rather than saying, right, well, listen, some things might have happened to me that weren't good, you know, like you, I missed justice, right? Now, you could have been out there, you could have played the victim the rest of your days with that.
I know.
And you could have just went and started drinking about it. You could have took all the drugs under the sun, and you could have, and people would come up to you and say to you, sorry, Sean, I understand where you're coming from. Man, you should have had all this money for this, you should have had that, and probably you should have. You know, and that's the truth, you know. But the reality is, you were better than that. And you then says, you know what, you're not getting defined by your traumas. Your trauma's only defining you. You know what I mean? And if you go back to, like, historically, you know, they looked at Carl Jung and Freud and that, and they were a believe Freud and Jung are really good, right? Jung in particular is massive in the field.
I love Carl Jung.
He's in the field of psychology. But there was a third psychologist that nobody talks about as much. It was Alfred Adler, right? Now,
heard him, don't know him, but
exactly, no, it's right much. But there's a couple of books says The Courage to be Disliked and The Courage to be Happy are two books that are based on the work of Alfred Adler, right? Whereas the other two kind of defined that trauma will impact your life to the degree that you'll be kind of defined by it. Adler didn't. Adler says, no. Traumas happen, but they don't define you, you know. And when I started doing other stuff, I went, why this guy not spoke about me, you know? And these two books are excellent, man. Adler's really, really good, man. And he talks about it, and it's like, we're not defined by our traumas. No. Traumatic experiences happen to every human being, right? Before I came in here the day, I never spoke to you about it, but I was working with somebody. I was doing a fourth and fifth step with somebody. So I was doing a fifth step, and he was talking about his traumatic, and I was kind of this weird, I came in, I woke up the day, and I was thinking, oh God, that's funny going to do this podcast. I couldn't get to work because feeling sorry for myself. My boy didn't drive my scrimder, my window cleaner. I've got a window cleaner business, and so I was like, didn't bring me my scrimder, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and I couldn't go a run. I've got a sore calf. I like to do a run before a podcast for me. I buzzed up, but I was feeling a bit poor about myself. Poor me, like, why is this happening to me today? I don't know if I can do this today, you know, or this. And then I start walking with this boy today, and then he talks about some of his traumatic experiences, which are similar to my traumatic experiences. If we talk in the one-to-one and we get your traumas were similar to my experiences. And then I went like, you're a fucking arsehole. I said, you're feeling sorry for yourself. I said, the reality is, we're all just going through a human experience. And I'm not defined with my traumas. Traumatic experiences have happened to me. Sure, they've affected me. Sure, definitely. I still can get my head thinking, but I'm not defined by that. I can rise above it, and I can do things, but do things that are productive and positive to do.
Which is amazing, Bob. And that's like, obviously this podcast has been kids are all positive, and we're trying to get the message out. This doesn't define you. And people say to me, oh, you done 15 years in the jail. Like, how did you do that? I don't know. I honestly don't. But I just knew that I'm not. My partner said to me at one stage, she says, Sean, I think I just lost my appeal. And I was like, I wasn't in a great place. I was all over the place. She says, Sean, you do know that you might never win this appeal and you might need to accept this. And I said, I can't believe you're even saying that to me. Like, what? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, you might need to accept this or you'll not move on. And I took that bad. I was like, I took it as a kind of, I can't believe you said that kind of thing. But I went away and I thought about it, and I was like, she loves me, man, like, so much. She wouldn't give me bad advice, like, right. And I looked into it, started kind of exploring it, and I was like, I might need to try and do this, man. Where else do you go? Like, you
did do the full straight, didn't you?
I've done the full 15 years, So I was in for 50. So I was there for I was 19, right up to 35, basically. So that is a huge chunk of your life. And as you say, I could have dined out in that bulb off my whole days, and nobody would have said anything about it.
Yeah, of course.
But I didn't. I says, do you know what? I'm going to try and make something myself. So, do you know what I mean? I'm working now. I've got myself in a place where I'm happy. I'm definitely not the finished article by any means. Do you know what I mean? I've still got a lot of stuff going on in my own life, but I'm definitely productive. I've got a wee boy that I kind of adore. There's so much going on that I've got. Do you know what I mean? That I'm lucky for, and you do feel you obviously you've got to that stage where people as well lost people in their life that they loved, and you've got to see it from their point of view and see things as well. And people that that maybe have got people that they lost, you know what I mean? And you're like, that's people have out now and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So you get it you get people's points of views. Do you know what I mean? Like why they would hate prisoners and why they would do this, and people going and on like they fucking feed them bread and water, don't give them nothing and all that. And what I say, Bob, is I go, see if that's the case, wear it then, own it. Don't have this big programme that you've got rehabilitation going on in prison and you've got all this stuff going on, you've got nothing going on. And boys are taking, it's not even benzodiazepines, it's thiodiazepines and like horrible, crude
stuff,
drugs, do you know what I mean? And obviously I think fentanyl and all that's just ready to come up here. I mean, it's done in England. I don't think Scotland's ready for it. I think that'll be a nightmare. I think that's an absolute disaster waiting to happen. But obviously we've got a wee bit off track here. So can I pull it back to yourself, Bob, and just kind of go, so see, obviously CA can't really talk, but what's the first step in kind of the programme?
Yeah, so it's not that I can openly discuss my experience in Cocaine Anonymous, but I'm not a representative of Cocaine Anonymous. I do a lot of service work within Cocaine Anonymous. I've been very blessed where I've been in other countries through my participation in Cocaine Anonymous, but I'm definitely not a spokesman for Cocaine Anonymous, but I can talk about my experience with it. So the Cocaine Anonymous is an offshoot or an off-branch of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous has been in since 1939, or maybe just before that. It's been helping people get off of alcohol. In the early 80s, there was a breakaway meeting in Los Angeles, and off that breakaway meeting, there was going to be, they were going to still remain as an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that talks about drugs. It's not that you can't talk about drugs and Alcoholics. It's just a bit taboo with some people because it's an older fellowship. A lot of people who are long term sober have never took drugs because drugs is a difference, don't they? They see it as a different thing. I know, addiction for me is one thing, but it doesn't matter. That's my personal opinion on it, But as I say, I'm no spokesman for any other fellowship. I'm just giving my experience with it. So addiction's addiction. Addiction's not just alcohol and drugs. Addiction goes in other areas like food. Sex addiction, just fucking obsessions with porn, all these different things. Gambling, even you can go as far as to say social media now. I mean, try and put your phone away, Sean, for any. I mean, I've been in this interview and I've been thinking about my phone. It's just, but it's built in as to that quick dopamine fix that we get. Whether it be checking Instagram, see if I've had messages, if somebody messaged me here about my whether it be his partner, whether it be your mate, whether it be just anything, you know what I mean? We get that quick dopamine fix. But so addiction covers many areas, right? But what happens with Cocaine Anonymous was in the early 80s. I think it was 81, but I might be, I'm not a spokesman, so don't quote me back on this one, because I'm only giving you my experience that I think I remember. So there was a breakaway meeting. And then they decided that, no, we're going to start our own fellowship up, and it's been called Cocaine Anonymous. So Cocaine Anonymous has been going for about 42 years now, 42 years.
As long as that,
and it's as long as that. So, but that was predominantly in America.
Has that been the crack epidemic?
So we get to that, but cocaine was rife at first. A lot came in through the ports into Miami, and dropped in with planes. And then
Scarface.
Scarface. You've seen the film. It was one of my favourites. You know what I mean? So we know exactly what happened through Cuba and so forth. Obviously, it's changed now the way it's imported now. Obviously, now it goes from Colombia into Mexico, Peru, whatever, into Mexico, and then obviously the size of the cartels. But we could have a whole podcast on that, talking discussions that alone, and the madness that goes with that. But the fellowship as a whole, because cocaine at that particular time was the biggest drug in America anyway, at least anyway, because it was just going everywhere, you know what I mean? They used to call it a rich man's drug. It became a lot cheaper, especially when the crack epidemic hit, they found a way now to cook up, and then that hit, and I think the early 80s, maybe mid-80s, and then it just went insane. I know. So there was this appetite for a new fellowship that came to fruition, and from that, it just grew bigger and bigger. So it was predominantly American-centric, as most 12-step programs were. So the 12-step program originated in America, so through Bill W. and Alcoholics Anonymous. And then obviously it went into different things like NA, CA, and so forth. So CA kind of took off big time in America. It then grew arms and legs, and it became it's now it's here in Europe. Now, currently, as we speak, 55%, it might be even greater now, right? So 55% of the participants who are members of Cocaine Anonymous reside in America or North America, right?
Is that right? It's a lot.
But right, so it's a lot is still hanging. But there, it's dwindling to the degree now that in the next 5 years, there's going to be more meetings per person, per capita in Europe than there is America. So what you do now is you get World Convention, so it's a big convention that happens every year. And the way it's going now, there's usually one in North America 1 year, and there's one in Europe the next year. So there's a big one coming out of Europe and just outside Amsterdam, which is quite ironic. You know what I mean? There's a place you want to go for drugs is Amsterdam, and they're having a World Convention there for Cocaine Anonymous. You know what I mean? So thankfully, mostly 99% of the people there will not be taking drugs, because it would be one hell of a party if they were. You know, imagine all the addicts relapsing, pandemonium. So it's the fellowship's getting bigger, and it's based in 6 different regions throughout the world. I think it's actually 8. It's going down to 6. So there's like 6 in America, and then there's a European, and then there's the rest of the world. So mainland Europe, and then the rest of the world. So it's massive, man. It's becoming bigger and bigger. And my experience with that, Sean, is in Cumbernauld. Me and my big mate, Big John. I'm not saying his second name, keeps anonymity, but we started up a meeting about 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer than that. In Cumbernauld. So the first meeting in Cumbernauld was actually started up with me and my mate, John. Sadly, it didn't take half as much as it probably could have at that time, and we disbanded the meeting. It was a Friday night, and my big mate Chris and a few others took the same meeting, but they changed the date to Monday, and then the Monday group took off, and that was gone for about 7-8 years there, maybe a wee bit more. And then since then, a meeting opened up on the Sunday night. There's a meeting on the Saturday morning, and there's a meeting the Friday night up Maven Hill. So there's now 4 meetings in Cumbernauld alone just to deal with the cocaine.
It just shows you the scale.
But it shows you the scale of how cocaine's gone now. You know?
But it's very not. It's so normalised.
Of course it is. It's crazy.
You go in buses and all that, satellite buses and all that, and it's like just people doing it in front of you. I mean, they're even hanging at the grounds now. The football stadiums, they're saying, because with the football, West of Scotland, Bob, see how Rangers, even all the teams, but it's big days and it's during the week, Wednesdays. So you end up like it could be a Monday, Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? If you're out on the Sunday, still partying the Monday, game on Wednesday. Yeah. So it can be 3-4 days a week if you're a hardcore fan. Do you know what I mean? Easy.
And that's cocaine use all the days.
I know. Well,
for me anyway,
Glasgow not the biggest consumption place in Europe? Is that true?
I'll tell you a funny story. So we went to. I was there in America. I was at a meeting in America, and I was doing a service position, and I spoke to this woman from Detroit, and she says to me, tell me about, she's a black woman from Detroit, she says, tell me a wee bit about Scotland.
Tell me about Scotland.
Scotland, she did an American accent. I said, right. I says, we are, per capita, the biggest users of cocaine in the world. We take more cocaine per capita, per person than anywhere else in the world. I says to her, we like to swear a lot. Every second word's a swear word. I like cussing, do you call it? And I says, we like to eat a lot of deep fried food. And I says, and our fitness and levels are shocking. So you're black then.
That's it.
And I've got a mate Johnny from Arizona who's Mexican, and I say, he says, you're just Mexican, you Scots, you know. He says, we're so much closer than you think, you know. And it's just addiction. It's addiction. It's like it doesn't stop for anybody's social economic background, you know, creed, colour, religious preference, sexual preference, you know, whether it be man, woman, whatever sexual preference you like, doesn't matter. It's like it doesn't discriminate, you know. Addiction will affect everybody, you know, everyone checked, you know. Definitely. And this is where I do advocate for 12-step programs stuff, is because the reality is there is a solution to this to get away from addiction. But there is a bit of work to be done, and that kind of leads us on to what you're talking about, the 12-step program, and it's like, so the first step in particular with Cocaine Anonymous is admitting that we are powerless over mind-altering substances, and our lives have become unmanageable. So that includes cocaine, but it's not just cocaine, it's other mind-altering substances. You know, some of it is, I'm probably a wee bit more radical than some, because I get the idea of that, but it's probably harder to take, because I'll probably take caffeine. I take a lot of caffeine myself. Once I stopped using drugs, you know, I became a bit of Red Bull freak. You know, a lot of coffees. I have about 4 or 5 coffees a day. So probably mind and mood alterers, definitely. And I eat a lot of sugar, which is mind and mood altering. But what they mean is the hardcore drugs that fuck us up. And that's what they're talking about. You know, cocaine for me, booze, hash, you know, these were like the things that smashed my mental health worse than anything else. You know, especially cocaine, you know. I've not drank for 18 years, as I tell you, you know, and so I'd already addressed, the powerlessness. When I went A first, I was in A first, you know, I remember, I think, did you avoid Ed Kelton already? Previous experiences, I did see, but if you ask me, I was initially a member of A who went to see because I could talk about my drug issues, because what happened with me was, I've been off of booze for so many years. And then it's the usual, stopped doing the first step stuff, you know, my life became unmanageable because I stopped doing meetings, stopped doing one meeting, 3 meetings a week, went down to 2 meetings a week, 2 meetings a week, went down to 1 meeting a week, 10 meetings a week, you know, I'd go to the wife, I'd go to the way, and I had the fucking house, went through a degree, go all the stuff that were really, really good in life, but stopped doing the stuff that was good for me, like going to meetings on a regular basis. And people say to me, Bobby says, you've been off the booze for like fucking 18 years, and you've been off the Charlie now for nearly 7. What are you still going to any meetings for? And what I need to tell them is the things from what I tell you is that I don't need to go a day because of me. I don't want to take drink or drugs a day. Do you know what I do? I go a day because I want to be there to be a hornet to try and help the newcomer. Because see, when I stop helping the newcomer, guess what happens to me? See, when trauma started to come into my life again, you know, experiences like, I can talk about my boy later on about something that happened to him. When I'm looking to the heavens and saying, God, I can't fucking deal with this anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at a tree and I'm thinking myself hanging for it, you know, in recovery. I know. And see if I'm not doing meetings and I'm not involved with service and I'm not following the 12-step program, the idea comes to me when I get traumatic events, or even sometimes it can be my life's gone excellent and I hit zero currency. Just have a beer, Bob. You know, just get a gram. Never had a gram in my life. I'll just have one. Never had one anything. Never had one beer. I've never had one line. I've never had one eckie. I take more than one everything. You know what I mean? But see, if I don't keep going back to that, I can forget how bad that was. So when I go back, I hear people's experiences and I say, fuck, I remember how bad that was. You know? Or I hear talking about something productive. I did that. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps me going back. And it's like, so there's 3 elements to all 12-step recovery programs, you know, and the basis of recovery, especially A, C, and so forth, NA, is there's 3 aspects there. Be a member of the fellowship, join a local group. It doesn't need to be a local group, it can be any group that you feel comfortable in. But for me, it was a local group, Sean. Most of my damage I done in the community was my local community. So if people say to me, they see me at my local community groups, fuck's sake, if our big bastards can get it, I can do it too. Because it's an example. You know, people saying, guys I used to talk to earlier on this interview, I used to roll about with people, and the guys that laugh, they come and say, all right, big man, here you're doing all right now, you're doing all that, and talking outside the roof still, they're on their 40s now with grey hair. I still think they're 16, I get it.
Talking about the bottle of wine.
You know, talking about the wine, talking about the dragon soup there. My head will say, I never had one of them under that tastes like. I never had one of the drinks. My head still comes back and tells me I don't want to ever drink again.
Your head's cunning into it.
Cunning and baffling and powerful, that's what they say in recovery, you know. So I can get that, but there's another aspect, so you must, you know, not must, but suggested, you know, and it's like, why did they suggest the addicts to do stuff? Because if you tell us something, we say fuck off, you know. But it's also suggested if you jump out of a plane, you've got a parachute, pull the cord. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? So sometimes suggestions, as they say, it's a subtle command, right? That's what you hear a lot of the stuff. That's kind of recovery speak. And so join that group and be a base of that group and go. And I'd love to say I'm a great group member. I've not been in my group for the last few weeks because I've had other things going on. But the reality is, it's my group and I go back to it. I'll be there on Monday. Remember? And the example I've got, my mom goes to that group today, and she's doing well in recovery today. And people that I know and care for her in that group, they're doing well in recovery today. You know, was an example with my mom. Possibly does she think I'm fucking still an arse? Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? But I'm an example of it. So join a group, go through the 12-step program, right? Which is, and the aspects of that 12-step program, I go through it really. Is
it difficult, Bob?
Right, I'll give you a quick rundown of the basics, right? Admit that you're fucked, right? And say that your life has become a shambles, right? That's the first step, right? Then come to believe that there's some power out there that's greater than you. Some people call that God, some people call it Spirit of the Universe, they call it Jehovah, doesn't matter, right? It's something that must be greater than you. As a fellowship, 2 people talking together greater than one, of course it is. So the fellowship can be that power, right? And it does suggest that in a solution in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous.
So it's not exactly spiritual then?
You don't need to be, so it can be philosophical. You know, it can be, it's just something that works for you. And this is where recovery is great, is that it opens up this idea that you come to your own concept of what that power is, right? But remember the context when it was wrote in 1939, so the wording is very based along a kind of spiritual, religious, maybe to a degree element to it. Because then you get to the first step, it's like, what Bonnet telling your will in your life to care of God as you understand him to be, right? So whatever that concept of God may be, right? So it's if you like Buddhists, for example, they don't believe in the idea of God. So what they suggested with Buddhists, just add an extra rope here. Telling your will good. You know, good orderly direction, God. You know what I mean? So that's thing. So then you're saying, right, I'm in this. I'm willing to say there's something might be greater than me because my life running my will was an absolute shambles. You know, I was like 18 years after booze. Thought it was a good idea after 10 years about what was that then? I must have been about maybe 5-6 years away from everything. I think it could have a wee bit. It went to a festival. I think a wee bit of popples. And then 4 knots, have a wee ecky. And then 4 knots, a wee bit of sulphur. 4 knots, having a bit of council gear. 4 knots, 50. And I find prop. And I end up back on cocaine after years after, right? So all these great ideas, you know, belief in a higher power.
And was that just impulsive? Was that like
impulsive? It was progressive. Sorry, it was impulsive, progressive. What was impulsive was the fact that I was snorting the popples. I just came out and that's all right, and then gave me this and that because I'm an alcoholic. I'm not an addict. You know, a lot of people get into recovery think they're the opposite. I've got a coke problem. I'm not an alcoholic. I can have a couple of beers before you know they're fucking back to the Charlie again and they're causing carnage. So I know now that I can't take that other stuff now. So I know I couldn't drink. And people, one guy in particular who you know really well, I'm in a house one night and he's like, have a beer. And I'm like, fuck off, I don't drink. He's like, you're snorting gear. I says, but I'm an alcoholic. You know, that's how demental and delusional I became. I'm snorting gear. My chest is like, it's full, my heart's going to burst out my chest. And people are offering me beer and I'm like, no, I don't drink beer. So I'd addressed that issue with alcohol. It's insanity, right? So in my heat, as much as the madness I was in, I knew that I couldn't drink, but I was still taking gear, which is fucking insane. And anybody knows that dry use with thing, it's fucking hard going.
I know.
So
that's quite common, isn't it?
So that was the insanity came back. So I was full flight for reality. So I've now got to a stage where I'm turning to one of my life very God because this more sane way of thinking, because the way of thinking I had was we led me out. So it was horrible. The end up I was isolated in a room using my cell. Mates were saying to me, I'm going to watch the football. And I'm like, no, I go out and watch stuff on my phone. I should be watching perilous at a time. You know what I mean? Just totally warped me. I was absolutely fucking warped. And it was horrendous. It was so dark, you know. And there's all saying it gets so dark before the dawn. It's like, so I didn't know that. I had to go, as I used to say to my mate, he used to mention to me, he says, I felt low in the snake's belly. And I had to go back to there. I had it before with the booze, but it was 100 times worse with the Charlie. And that's the truth, mate. I thought booze was bad for me, but see the Charlie at the end up, it was horrendous. And I go back into recovery and I turned my will and my life into this care of God as I understood it to be. And the next part of this, that 12-step process was that I had to write down aspects of traumatic events happened in my life, you know, they call it a moral inventory. And I would write down something like, I'm resentful at, you know, fucking my mate Gareth Small because he says to me when I was away, don't hang about with that Boab Keenan, he's a fucking bad apple, you know what I mean? But fucking couch in my night, lying in my bed, like, who's the fuck's that boot all about? 3 plates, so to resent means to replay, it's from the Greek word to replay, right? How to resent to replay. Makes sense. So I replay shit in my head and I think he's a cunt, she's a cunt, he's a cunt, fucking cunt. So I need to write
good guy.
Wank. Talking about wanks, the good guys, not when I'm the biggest one. Biggest wank. So I'm writing down all these different people and I'm writing, cause of this, she says I was a bad apple. My mom fucking says to me she wanted to have an abortion with me when she was fell out and fuck, how dare she said to me I'm sensitive, you know, fucking the victim. My dad was never there. All that stuff. Pure bullshit, man. My mom and dad never tell me they love me. West Coast of Scotland shit. You know what I mean? No get told I loved. You know what I mean? To show you love again, you fucking skip that, so get fucking on with it. You know? So I had all that stuff going on in my head, you know what I mean? People that relationships that broke down, you know. And then what did that affect in me? You know, pride, ego, fucking, you name it, anger, all these different character defects, which I was to get to. But then the thing that I had to look at, what part did you play in on this? And the reality was, there was a lot of my actions that if I didn't do that, would have got in situations I got in, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't anybody else that forced the Charlie up my nose.
No.
It was me that took the Charlie up my nose. It wasn't anybody that forced me to drink all that tonic and fucking take all the eggies and smoke all that dope. It was me that did that. And see, that back to that stuff we were talking about earlier in this interview, it's that you can either be the victim and play the victim all your days, and people could have said to me, we'll talk about it soon, but the stuff that went on to me in the last couple of years was fucking hard gone, man.
I know.
And people were saying to me, like, listen, big man, I understand if you were mad and all that. And it's like,
I know.
You just have to go through the processes, because life in life's terms, right? And if you go through the processes in life terms, you come out the other side. I'm not saying I'm glad what happened, because I would be fucking lying. It was still horrendous.
I know.
But I feel a stronger human being today. Nietzsche talked about that, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know what I mean? And Nietzsche stuff's awesome. Some of his stuff's a bit fucking mental, but the reality is he's really good. And he's misunderstood what he's saying. But he talks about that, and it strengthens you. Especially as a man, it strengthens you. It's seen favourable for men to have scars, you know, maybe less so for women, but definitely for men, you know, it's like it's looked at them favourably by others, like, wow, if you can get through that, and especially peers that see it and they go through it, you're admired by people, you know what I mean? And it's like, and my experiences I've had with that is like, see, when I've been through traumatic experiences in recovery, I mean, is that I know that I've got the tools to pass that information on to somebody else and help somebody else today, which I didn't have before previous. Does that make sense?
See, we were talking just when you're saying about trauma. I done a live, just a wee live session to recap the first 10 episodes of the show on, I think it was Monday night, and there was only a few guys kind of tuned in at the time. It was a kind of last minute thing, you know what I mean? I just kind of flung it together, but I answered some viewer questions and stuff like that. Somebody asked me about trauma and says, like, can you explain trauma to the best of your ability? I says, look, I would advise you to go and look at Gabernati. I says, and the problem I see with Scotland and the trauma-informed stuff that they talk about is that there's a lot of people flinging that word about that really don't know what it means. And there's so many definitions to the word trauma that it can become mumbo jumbo. But to me, me personally, trauma is the key for everything, the key to so much. And if you win over your trauma, you win, you'll come through, you'll rise like a phoenix, you will come to that. So I think that trauma, the best way I can explain it, trauma is a Greek word for a wound. That's what trauma meant, right? Yeah. So it's an internal wound. It's a wound that you can't see, but it still gets infected. If you don't treat it, it will get infected. So instead of you being able to put a plaster in it or whatever, the way you would do with a physical wound, if you let that manifest, that wound's going to get infected. It's going to poison you. It's going to poison your whole internal system. And that's where I start. It's like you end up with kind of like a poisonous blood system that's just constantly pumping through hate, why me, negativity, boom, boom, boom. And your brain is a machine that tries to fix things. It's a fixing machine. So see when Hit can't fix it, Hit's going, what the fuck am I meant to do? So that starts spiraling all over the place, trying to fix your problems. And it's only you that can accept it. Yep. And people say to me, how can you accept what happened to you? How can you accept what happened? How can you accept this? How can you accept that? I'm saying, for me, I need to do it for me. I need to do it for my family, for people that I love. I need to accept that. If I don't, where am I? I'm just going to be moaning constantly about what happened to me and all this and that shouldn't have happened and this and that. It did happen. The reality is it happened. Am I going to sit there and just take it? I need to, and I've worked with miscarriage of justice victims who, as you says before, they can dine out as much as they want. Paddy Hill, guys like the guys have been through extreme hardcore sentences for IRA stuff and that. Now, Paddy will admit to you that Paddy will say, I can't love you, I don't know what love is, and Paddy's built these walls up that we all do. So when I went into the kind of miscarriage mojo and I said the word acceptance, it was like a bad word. And a lot of them were like at the start, like, what? But the aftercare worker there is amazing. And he kind of took on board a lot of the stuff that I was kind of doing. And now he's like flourishing, like he was flourishing anyway, but he's brought this program about now, and he's brought about some real change with some guys who I would say are the most damaged people that I've ever seen. So the change in that is so beautiful to watch. But trying to explain trauma and trying to describe it, I think you need to know it.
Yeah, you need to experience it.
And I think you need to know it, Bob. I think you need to wear the T-shirt and admit. There's a lot of admitting. There's a lot of kind of, as you say, is like, and the first step, you need to admit that there's a higher power. You need to admit you're powerless. You need to admit that.
Yep.
That goes along the board with anything. And I think that you could probably regurgitate that into so many different ways of how people find recovery, whether they think it be through God, whether they think it be going through whatever, whether they think they've done it themselves, whether they think they've done this. It will be a level of acceptance to the reality that they find themselves in, that the first kind of step is. So it was a hard question, but I was like, I don't really know how to answer it, but that's my kind of way of answering it. It's like a manifestation of an infected wound if
That's
you
a
don't.
good billing, is it? Huh?
But anyway, so we'll go back to like your recovery. So what else? So obviously, like, I know that you've had your wee blip and all that, and it's no, how did you pull yourself back for that then? Just the same stuff?
Just the similar to the experience. It's like, there was only the only option there where it was like I was saying that earlier on, the darkness before the dawn. It was like the darkness was like, just fucking get rid of your life. You're useless to your boy. This is all bullshit, but it's a narrative that he'll tell you. You're useless to your boy. You've already fucked up your marriage. You know, by that time I'm going through a divorce. You know, I'm sitting sobbing. Oh, she doesn't love me. Oh, she got another guy. Like, she get married next year. And all that. On you go. Still care for that. But, you know, I just wish her well now. You know, and it was never going to work, especially after the trauma that we went through with each other. Toxic poisonous, sadly, at the end up, you know. And a lot of it was, what part did I play? A massive part of it. You know, I need to take responsibility for that. You know, and I just had to continue. I just looked at my life at that time and says, if you keep doing what you're doing, listening to this bullshit that your head's telling you, you're going to end up fucking hanging for a rope. And that was the reality. And, you know, it became, the anxiety was through the rest, and the depression kicked in. And what I had to do was to start again. And I knew with the solution, like I had to go straight to Cocaine Anonymous because I'd been there previously, and I knew that it worked in other people's lives, and I did. And like I says to you, it's like I got through the first 5 steps, you know, when I came back to Cocaine Anonymous, and I went back to my original sponsor who was an A, and I went through the steps with him. We did it in a slightly different format. We went through it, and we just went through it week by week. You know, when I got to 6 and 7 and I looked at my defects of character, you know, like, where was I going wrong, right? Well, I was fucking arrogant, you know, I had lots of fucking severe lust going on in my life, you know, that's one of the biggest aspects that's always got me in trouble. You know, I had a lot of anger issues, you know, I would always lose it. I still can these days, you know, especially about road rage that loves me. Do you think I'm a fucking dog? Fucking think I'm a fucking run you off the road? Madness, mate. If you're insane, I start following people, you know, they cut me off and they give me the finger and I go, is that right? And I start following them.
That's a wee old woman.
And then even though she's still getting followed. And then I go, and then next programme, I go, what are you doing, you fucking idiot? And then I turn away and I go, sorry about that. So I'm still insane, mate, but I'm getting better. So I looked at defects of character and I says, right, well, I know where I go wrong. I know what's wrong with me. I know what aspect of my stuff that I need to work on. And it's like, to this day, I'm still working on that stuff. You know, I still get into trouble through some of the aspects of my character defects. So I continued with that, and I knew what I was saying. And there's a bit in Cocaine Anonymous that talks about the promises, and it says you will be amazed before you're halfway through. And I seen that the trajectory of my life was getting better and better. You know,
because you're very inspiring and you're very clever and you're articulate, and these are probably aspects that you've probably never seen in yourself before you've done these kind of things, eh?
Probably no, because what happened was when I left school with no qualifications, and where recovery really changed my life for the better was it gave me the tools. Well, sorry, first and foremost, it gave me role models who one of the role models that you and I grew up with. The role models that you and I grew up with. Who was the best fighter in the scheme? You know, I'll try and be a better fighter. You know, I don't know if I'll be able to batter him, but I'll at least try and be a good fighter. You know what I mean? Who was sleeping with a woman? Tried that. My nickname was Kindo the Fiendo. I was trying to sleep with a woman all the time. God loves a try. I know I was the best, but a couple of times I succeeded. You know what I mean? I took knockbacks easy. I got used to them. You know what I mean? And who sold drugs? You know, that was the kind of people who I'd looked at. That was my role models. People who did the kind of free aspects. And then I ended up covering people were saying, I like people who were cool, calm, articulate, people who could talk, you know, people who could, but no more importantly, who walked the walk. You know, didn't they just talk the talk, they walk the walk, and they actually, the stuff that they say they did, they tried to do, and I try my best to do. I fail miserably a lot of times, but I try my best to be a better human being today. And there's one guy in particular who we know well enough, and he says, he's one of his famous quotes he still always says, always try and be the best version of yourself. I think you're going to get one of the podcasts one time. He's a rude guy, because he asked me for his phone number. I don't know. He knows who he is if he hears this, right? And he used to say it. But for me, that ideal was too high, because if I was to be the best version of myself, I'd have at least gone out and done 2,000 steps a day. I'd have done about 100 press ups. I wouldn't have had that peppies that I had just in the corner or that juice. But you know what I did do in my recovery show me is that try and be a better version of yourself. And that's what I try and be. I try and be a better version of myself that I used to be. And so these role models were that to me, going and saying to me, I can see you getting into education. So I went back to basics, man. Eventually I went to university, but what happened with me was that I went to learn direct, to learn to write sentences, how to structure sentences, how to do paragraphs, you know, just basic stuff.
So you did go right back to the basics,
really basics, mate. And then I went to a Roots to Work program, which was helping me get qualifications to get into work, which then I used that to get to an access course at college. I went done an access course, I done a HNC, and then I went on to university, and I done all right.
That's amazing.
I got a degree now. There's woman in our family went to university. None of the guys ever done it. So I was the first person in my family ever go to university. You know? So I can be a wee bit more articulate because I've got a better vocabulary than I did when I was just So I've learnt a few words the other days, you know what I mean? And that's all it is. It was just because people believed in you. And that's the thing with positive role models in your life, you know. And I'll talk about one. I'll just go kind of take a wee step back to tell you something about positive role models. So my boy, who I love to death, right, has his troubles, as you know, it's completely. Somebody says to me, and cocaine, it was actually a number of years ago, and he says to me, see if you tell your Wayne every single day that you love them, they'll turn it all right, right? Now, my boys went through mega shit lately, right? So he's mellowed and not now. He was in Cumbernauld there for about 6 months. I'll go into the details with you, right? So what happened was 2 years ago there was an altercation up Ravenhill, and he was there, and it was there £25. Somebody pulled out a machete, says, "You owe me fucking £25." He says, "Fuck off, we don't know you fuck off." Another boy pulled it, he pulled it a dagger. He then attacks the boy threatens him, he attacks the boy gets stabbed numerous times. The then boy who's got the machete, who's just been stabbed numerous times, chases my boy and the boy who stabbed him with a machete, and then collapses at the grass just up at Larts Road, and sadly his life got took away, right? And my boy at that time is right, it's like, this is back to this role model stuff. I was saying to my boy, your dad loves you, and you can do this and you can do that. And I remember this guy saying, your boy's got to turn out. I'm like, next minute I know my boy's getting took in question for a fucking murder. You know what I mean? It was just horrendous, mate. It was fucking horrendous.
I watched my man that way as well, but I know it's horrible.
You know the experience for this, right? Horrendous,
horrifying.
Right? So I'm sitting there, right, and I'm at my grand's, right? So that I was saying earlier on, but it's so dark before the dawn. So he's in there now for 2 days. He's only 15, he's about to be 16. And
because he was a wee bit a lad, wasn't he?
You know,
like,
he's still a boy today, but he's still a boy today. But he's a nice boy. He's very likeable, right? So it's a bit like his dad, like I'm a cheeky chap at times. I know I've got a part I kind of laughing at, you know the drill. And he's the same. He's got a pattern. Very likeable cat boy. Obviously,
I've heard a lot of good stuff about him.
Really good, right? So he's doing really good in it. But I'll talk about that in a minute, right? So. It gets took into this for this question, and then there's a video getting circulating about it, and it's ironically it was this event happened the year previous to he'd a square go with boy, and this video was getting passed about like that was the situation that created the
I remember somebody kind of
the death of it, and it wasn't that. It was a square go that happened. It was a completely different thing, but the irony was it was in the same place where this event happened a year later. So he then goes in for questioning, and it was horrible, mate. I genuinely thought I wasn't going to see my boy for a number of years, and
it's traumatising for him.
Traumatic, man. And I was in recovery, and I was in recovery at the time, and I'm looking to the heavens, I've plumb above my later this kind of God, and I'm feel ashamed to say it, Sean. I says, fuck you. I says, you having a laugh? I says, what am I doing right here? What am I fucking doing? I'm doing what you want me to do. Now, if you go like any historical references to Bible stories, events like this happen to strengthen one's faith, whether that you believe that or no. But I'm not the only person.
She fell out with God.
I had to fell out for about a day, right? And I'm sitting the next day. This is what happened to me the next day, right? So he gets in. I think he's going away, and then I get a phone call saying, "Mr. Keenan," he says, we're letting your boy go. I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "We've got CCTV footage to come back." And I used to joke about this. He had this red tracksuit on, right? And it was a Lacoste red trackie. And he says, I used to say to him, I said, "That's fucking jailbait, that track." He says, "You still wrote this for fun." How the irony this is going to come back. They checked the CT, this red track, and he's actually seen pulling the boy who was trying to pull this guy away from him, who was hanging and eventually gets chased. So they let him out because it wasn't him, obviously, that had done it. And I looked at it and I went, "I'm sorry. I've just, because my prayers were answered. I got my boy back." And sadly, I would like to say that was a happy ending. It wasn't the case. He came out and he was fucked, and he was taken her as a street violent, and then eventually gets locked away and he came to kibble. But the role model aspect was this, right? Because I went on a tangent here, but there's actually a point to this. So the role model for me was him. I was always there for my boy. My boy's been beside me since he's been 2-year-old, right? And he knows the values of Cocaine Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, 12-step program stuff. I'm not just differentiating between the two fellowships. It's just the values that I learned through CA and AA. So he knew these values, right? So I was always there for him. He then getting told how my idea of my God works through people, right? So people put in my path for it. I was meant to meet you for a certain reason of time. I meant to be here today for a certain reason. Even if this message is to help another human being, at least some person will hear what I say today and will say, "Fuck, I get that." At least they can relate to it. And that's what it matters. It's one person, it doesn't matter.
Definitely.
Some people might say, "Oh, fuck, talk a lot of fucking shit." That's all right, It's not about that. It's only my story. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's my experience. And I don't care what people say today. It's like, I know that what's true for me is that it might help somebody. So he goes into kibble, right? Because they didn't. This is the best legislation that the Scottish government ever did, was that they try not to make kids into prison, because
that was Lord Turnbull, by the way.
Was it?
We spoke about that on here, man. And
did you?
I'm not a big fan of him or his wife, but his wife's Dorothy Bain, who's a Lord Advocate. So listen, good on them for it, because it's a great bit of legislation.
Great bit of legislation. And so he goes into kibble and he meets this boy food down south. Now, I don't know if you know this, but if you don't, if you do, you can tell me. But down south, they've not got the facilities to deal with kids who need to go to secure. So they've not got that. So they've all high kids or high risk of offending get sent to Scotland for down south. So in kibble you've got boys for London in there. You've got boys for down right down south. So he meets a boy for St Helens, just outside Liverpool, or between St Helens and Liverpool. And the role model that he looked up to this boy was a year older, but the boy was into mixed martial arts. So he gets into mixed martial arts, and then he thinks, "Oh, he's old dad here." He says, "Oh, yeah, my dad used to be a Scottish amateur champion at Muay Thai." So he phones me, he says, "Dad," he says, "What?" I said, "Go, come up and do some pads with me." So I said, "Yeah, of course I'll come and do some pads with you." I was like, about chuffed my boys. Asking his dad to come and help with them. So it just shows you that something stuck with him, you know. So he cut a long story short, I come to pads. When that boy leaves, he goes back down south. He ends up going back into prison eventually. This boy gets back into the rank crowd and goes to prison. But he was there for him at that particular time. He gets out, my boy gets out, and another spanner in the works. Before he goes away, he goes away in April, I think, or the March, or I can't remember. And he finds out that just before he went, he was sleeping with this lassie and she falls pregnant. And then we find out when he's inside, he's got to be fucking da. So I'm only 43-year-old, I'm a granddaughter now, you know what I mean? So I've got a wee beautiful granddaughter, Layla. She's awesome, man, she's beautiful, right? And so he's a da now, right? So I started talking to myself about screwing up, you need to. He then goes in and gets into mixed martial arts. He goes into Muay Thai like his dad. He goes to the local gym, and that's him now. He said like he's having his fourth fight the 25th of this month is his fourth fight he's going to have, and he's totally changed dramatically for the better. You know, it's like people say to me, "You must be proud you've got your boy back." And I says, "I never got my boy back. I got a better version I've ever had in my boy." I came out with this.
You've always had your boy, but
I always had my boy, but he became a boy,
turn into a man.
Turn into a man. You know, a man who was starting to take responsibility for himself, who's went through his own traumas. You know, his mother's still to this day. I love her to death. She's gave me my boy, and she's an active addiction today. You know, intravenous heroin user. No, actually, sorry, I take that back. She was an intravenous heroin user. She says to me now, I was talking to her.
I didn't know her, but
she's I don't know if she's smoking crack, but she's on cocaine of some sort. She's telling me, God bless her. She's
a lovely look last time.
Aye, so it's a shame. So she phones me up. She says to me all week, she says, I'm half of it. I said, I'm just on the Charlie now. I don't know if that's been half it, but I said, but good on you for it. I said, a step in the right direction.
No, definitely.
But the aspect of role model was that he says to me, right, and I've been having a long tangent to come to my main point here. My boy says to me, he watches all that Andrew Tate stuff and thing about, some of Tate stuff's good. Some of it's good. And other guys, Jordan Peterson, that.
Aye.
And he says, see the stuff that you've been telling me that all your life, my life, about take responsibility, stand up, being a protector for your family, being the best that you can be. He says, this is a message that they're telling me. He said, you used to tell me all the time. I says, maybe you should fucking listen. He says, but so he gets it now, and the one thing that he did say, and this is the main aspect I was wanting to tell you this point, was that, see when I tell that guy, he says, you tell your Wayne every single day that you love him, will turn out all right.
Aye.
I tell my boy every single day that I loved him.
I tell my boy that.
And because it's a West Coast of Scotland thing that a lot of people don't say, but that's boy tell me taking a date, and I'm glad that you did, right?
Aye.
Do you know what the best thing about it was? It turned out differently from I thought, right? Know what Kyle does a day? That's my boy, right? Kyle's my boy. Kyle tells every single human being that he loves them. I mean, see, we met you and you told me, see you later, bro, love you, man. And he'd walk away, and he'd tell you he loves you. He tells his pals, he talks to his pals, he says, you love me, right? He says, right, the best thing comes out of it, my mum, right? My mum's in recovery now, right? God bless her, man. Still nips my head. I was telling you earlier on this interview, still nips my head. He says to her every time, right, I'm away going, I love you. And she goes, I love you too, right? But no, the best thing about it, see, because he told her that she loves me. See, when me and my mum talk, we both say we love each other now, right? I say to my dad still, say, right, damn, away, I say, I love you. He goes, right, yes. He does the date, right? He goes, I love you too, right? See what I mean? And I tell my brothers that, or they'll say, oh, fuck off you. That's because my boy gets shown love and get told he's loved, and now he gives it back now, and now he's got responsibility to take it for his own way, and it's amazing, hard for him because he's only 17 and he's got his own. That's
amazing. No, it's amazing. It's amazing change, and it's a testament to you. And I hope he just keeps flourishing. I hope he does, and I would love to come and see him fight at some time.
You'd like that?
I'd love that. I'd love to come. I'll definitely do that, Bob, definitely. I think we've had a few different things on this show. Do you know what I mean? There's all been different kind of opinions and whatever. And when you're talking about Andrew Tate and all these people, they're like, I like him, right? And he speaks so much sense, right? A lot of stuff I don't agree with him, right? A lot of derogatory stuff and all that, and I don't think there's any need for that or that stuff. But listen, again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I think a lot of this stuff's kind of, sorry, a lot of it's kind of fake in the way that these guys they're going out and hire Lambert. No, Andrew Tate, I know he's loaded, but there's other guys going out and hire Lamborghinis for the day and all that. I mean, me and Paul, the boy that edits this show, we're talking about it, and they go out and hire Lamborghinis for the day, and it's like, look at me, and they're getting dragged out. These young boys are all getting dragged in with this pish, and you're like, you really need to see, before you get the material stuff, you really need to fix yourself, man. You like that 100%. If you go for that material stuff first, you'll be eating for it. You'll lose your morals, you'll lose all that. You need to get your value system right. You need to get your foundations first. And I try and say that too when I speak to the young ones. I go, don't listen. There's certain aspects, and I'd love to be able to go, don't listen to that bit and listen to that bit, don't listen to that. I'd love to be able to, but you're no with them all the time, so they're dead easy influenced by these people. But
do you know there's one aspect, sorry for interrupting,
no,
that's just my train of thought there. Andrew Tate is a massive advocate, and he says it quite a lot. He talks about being more stoic, right? Now, if you actually go and look at the philosophy of Stoicism, right?
Aye.
There's one aspect that it talks about more than anything else, right? It doesn't talk about material wealth.
No.
It doesn't talk about any of that stuff. It's actually to the contrary, it's the absolute opposite. So there's only one thing you've got total 100% power there, is your character. Right? Your character's a human being, right?
Totally.
What you've not got control of your health, you've not got control of your wealth, you know what I mean? To a degree you can have, if you look after yourself and eat better, potentially you could live longer, but it doesn't mean you can't have a brain aneurysm before clearly.
Exactly. No.
You could lose all your wealth instantly with one bad business thing. But see, through all that stuff, your character must remain. You know what I mean? And,
I agree with you.
That's one thing he doesn't talk about enough. He doesn't talk about
I
that.
don't think he's got any.
No, because it's
And
hard.
I don't mean that taking a hang from him. I don't mean that to Andrew Tate in a way. I don't think Andrew Tate's got any character. I think he's very
I can understand the superficial aspect.
Definitely.
And I get the prestige aspect, and especially living in a capitalist society. You know, the people look at that as something to aspire to. And it's I'm not saying it's wrong to have nice things. Of course, it's good to have nice things. But see if your character's shit and you're still fucking kicking the dog or shouting at the wife
from
or
the lassies, it doesn't need. I mean, I get it. But see, like, if the lassie's on there talking shit, let her talk shit. Don't fucking slaughter her and don't. But he's clever. He's very clever. He's very articulate. And when you've got a lassie there that's not like that, that's maybe shouting about feminism, don't destroy her, man. Like the way that I've seen him do. Like, and I know he loves all that. He loves destroying people. But see, your character, see if that's you. See if you're an actual good person. You don't get enjoyment out of destroying people. Like the guy with the BBC now. I know he's like, and I know there's a lot of stuff that I believe Andrew Tate way in that world.
Of course.
But getting the BBC guy to go away up and all that, it's just petty. I don't think you need to do it.
Standing outside yourself. I did lose a lot of respect in it. I did. I must admit.
Fuck, man.
I think it was initially for Vice, but then
Vice. And I get it. I get why he's doing it. I'm like, but it's all just what you're showing is revenge. There. Rise above it.
Because that's what they talk about. Because Stoicism is about virtue. Virtue means excellence of character. You know.
I know that obviously. Is it Marcus Aurelius?
Marcus Aurelius, he talks about don't try and be a good person, be one. You know what I mean? That's what, and it's the philosophy in itself is awesome. It's like they talk about, and one of the major, there's 4 cardinal virtues, and one in particular is temperance, which means to don't overindulge in it. So no overindulging means don't smoking the bit out, no driving hundreds of big fancy motors and wasting money in this and eating too much and doing all this stuff. And sadly, the portrayal that people might get from him is that he does that, what I mean? Which is deeply going against. And another core tenet of that is wisdom. Wisdom to make the right choices. Is it the right choices at times? You know what I mean?
I think he's. I mean, obviously he's got a platform that he's built his setup up as an amazing. But even Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was mad with his annex for years, do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying, again, some of his fucking stuff's amazing, do you know what I mean?
Some of it's great.
But what people need to realise is when you're watching social media, you're watching a character. Because you don't get to know that person, you don't get to know that person's inside out. So see, like, you'll speak to some people and they know maybe so-and-so, and you go, like, he's a strong boy, and you go, no really, man, like, he's fucking struggles. And Gabor Mate talks about it. I mean, he was talking about it not that long ago. The other day he was on that podcast, the CEO Diaries, and he was talking about how his wife's like, going to just stay out of this fucking Israel-Palestine thing, like, and like, I know you're putting yourself out there, and you're 79, man, now, and like, it's affecting me. And he's like, I'm that wrapped up in this that I'm forgetting about my family again. So that's a man that's way above like a lot of people in awareness, and he's forgetting his roots so easily because there's a bigger thing, like a globalised thing going on. So I think it's just
it was one of the things that was kind of levelled against Nelson Mandela and all, is that he gets so, and it's understandable and all, he became the icon that he was, and the amount of time he spent in prison. But his family became really resentful towards him.
His missus couldn't stick by him
because he gave himself so much to the people rather than his family, and that's where the that fine balance where you need to try and be there, especially but also try and be there for your community. And sadly, a lot of people they become more engrossed in the community, or even the opposite. They forget about the community and they become more engrossed in their family. I've had a guy in particular who a few years ago during the COVID pandemic, this guy was a really good life coach, and he was helping a lot of people. And he more or less, he was with this group, and he gave up in the group, and he went, I've got the COVID here now, and he just went away, you know what I mean? It's like, and that's difficult too. So I kind of get both sides, and it's like anything in life, most things are about a balance, but I'm an addict, I've never found balance, Sean, you know what I mean? When you maybe tell me how to do it, I can maybe try and do it, I get obsessed with everything and then, so I can see kind of both sides of the argument.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt, I mean, there's that, I mean, you could look at Machiavelli, right? And you could look at some of the stuff Machiavelli writes about, and you could probably put that onto like Andrew Tate and all that. There's a lot of manipulation there with these guys. There's a lot of kind of, they don't do, you're not getting Andrew Tate on a podcast like this for, he'll be wanting 500 grand, you know what I mean? James English would have been lucky if he'd seen a penny out of that one, you know what I mean? These guys don't do these things for nothing. So there's guys like, I know, like David Heyman that's come on this, didn't want a penny, just wanted to talk about his charity, humanitarian stuff.
Of course.
Like, obviously, there's other people that we've got involved as well, and nobody's asked for it. So then, I have had guys I've seen, like, they want to come on out 10 grand, and you're like, all right, mate, no bother, man. Like, we're a podcast, it's just starting up, man. I'm fucking, I'm rooked, mate, man. I'm up in Phoenix. You know what I mean?
Maybe I'll start getting a sponsorship.
You know, fucking Camden. But it's like, you're just going like that, like, look, I'm just out of prison, done 15 years. I've got quite a good knowledge on the background. Do you want to talk about this? Do you want to talk about that? I give 10 grand, and you're like, really? I said, when if I was ever to be lucky enough to have that money, I would give it. Do you know what I mean? But you're not. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're looking for the grace of other people to kind of help you build as well. Do you know what I mean? And build something that's kind of educating and no glorifying crime and no glorifying it, like taking drugs, and because it's all pish. And I think once you come to that conclusion, it's very hard to go back. And I'm even getting to the stage. The last time I went out and had like a few beers was at the cup final, and then
I think
I was in May. That was the last time. So I'm a liar. I was on holiday, and me and Fiona was out on a night out one night, and we had a couple of beers and that. But I can't deal with it. I'm going like, I'm a terrible dad. When I'm hungover, I'm a crap person. My missus, I've not got as much time as I used to anyway, like doing all this kind of stuff. I'm not spending enough time with her. I make terrible decisions when you've had a drink, and do you know what I mean? It's just, there's so much stuff there going on that you need to go, I need to try and no do this, do you know what I mean? And it's hard because it's people you love and people you love spending time with, but it seems to be that sometimes the only time you spend with them is when you're drinking, or when you're going to the football, or you're going for a couple of pints, and you're like, it's no really worth it. Do you know what I mean? I don't like, it's no, because I can't like drink hunters anyway and all that. Do you know what I mean? But it's just one of the things where it's so ingrained in the Western society. And I just think these big flashy guys, it's dead easy for them like, sitting there with 50 million. You know what I mean? It's all right when you've got £150 million in the bank, and you're going, do this and do that, and they get up in the morning, do what they want, go for a sauna. They're not having to pay mortgages, bills, and all that, every other normal person. Do you know what I mean? So I think you need to get your channels inside, if you want to call it your chakras, whatever, your kind of alignment. You need to get that alignment. You need to get a good foundation. You need a good value system. And a book I read, one of the times, it was an amazing thing that I done, and I actually done it. It said, imagine you were 100 years old and your grandson came up to you or whatever and went, Bobby, tell me all about life. Tell me what I need to do. See whatever you write down on that bit of paper, that's you. That's your value system.
Yeah, of course.
See, if you're not living like that, you're going to be in conflict with yourself.
Absolutely.
And I don't live like that. I don't, see if I was to write down, I don't do yoga, I don't stretch, I do like stuff that, you know what I mean? It's just you do stuff that you shouldn't be doing, eating too much shite, whatever. You don't live by that, so you're in conflict with yourself no matter what, do you know what I mean? And I am a better version of what I was when I first came out, and I'm hopefully that will grow, but it does take time, do you know what I mean? It's like these guys in jail and all that are like coming out, and you're trying to tell them, just go on with it and just man up, and you're like, mate, the guy's fucked, like, are you kidding on? Like, these people need help, do you know what I mean? But that's my rant over, do you know what I mean? But
it's a good book, and also if you look at you read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning?
No, but I've seen really, a lot of quotes and all that for it.
And it tributes, it doesn't matter what it is in your life, if you attribute some sort of meaning to that, whatever your existence be, you know, for me it could be a number of things. It's definitely trying to be a better parent, trying to be there for my son, Try to be a better human being, you know, Stoicism stuff, try to be a better character. Climbing hills, you know, running's a massive aspect to my life. You know, it's like attributing that meaning to your life and it gives you that purpose. But if you've not got purpose, you're just like you're like a ship, you know, floating about in the sea with no sail, no going anywhere. And it's like they all need to have that. But my purpose and meaning is going to be different for your purpose and meaning. And my value system is going to be different to your value system, you know. And that's a good thing about human beings, you know. It's a good thing about that we're talking about. I think it was Seneca, the Stoic, and he talks about Stoicism, how it worked for him. He says, but if you find something greater than that, attribute that to your life, make sure that you stick it to your life and try and become a better version of yourself. You know what I mean? As I say, it's hard to be the best version of yourself because I wouldn't have drank all that just today. You wouldn't have drank. But being better, man, and you know yourself, it's like sometimes we get ourselves down for absolutely nothing. There's a good thing it talks about in CA. Well, it's actually A it comes from. So there's a book called The Doctor's Opinion, right? And it talks about two aspects that I've never read in our book before, right? It talks about the mental obsession coupled with the physicality, right? So the mental obsession is this, right? It talks, my head talks shite to me, your head talks shite to you. Producer's head talks shite to him, right? Tells us lies at times, right? It will say stuff like, for me anyway, being an addict, right, Bob, just have a gram a night. You know, you'll be fine. Even half a gram. So it talks to you, half a gram. You know, I've never half a gram allowed. So it tells me lies, right? But it doesn't just tell me lies and that. It'll tell me lies like, it's good to be in this relationship with somebody because of this. It's good to be doing this in your life when it's no. It tells me lies all the time, right? But I've got a physicality, right? So my head tells me lies like, go and do this, ruin about addiction. And then when I done it, it would say, imagine fucking listening to me. My same heat would say that to you. So
Michael Singer, right? Michael Singer says, see that voice in your head, give it a name, right? He says, and kick about it for one day, right? Listen to it, write down what he's telling you, write down what he's singing. He went, would you fucking hang about with that? Would you ever even associate with that?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't. I mean, the stuff that you say to yourself. I walk by the mirror and I'm like, stay you fat bastard. I mean, you would see if somebody said that, you'd be like, oh, fuck, man, like, fucking hell, like, chill out, or whatever, do you know what I mean? But the stuff you say is so nasty. No, as you're right, Bob, I totally get you on that.
That's such a great point, because it's like, there's things I say to myself that I would not say to my fucking worst enemy. I'd like to think I've not got any really bad enemies, right? But you know what I mean? I wouldn't say that to somebody that I particularly don't like. The way I talk to myself, my internal narrative. And I'm looking in the corner here behind you, there's a book there, The Chimp Paradox. And I've read the book. It's great, right?
That's where I get my value system.
It's absolutely fantastic. And it's like this, it talks about the how, because the brain is the brain's created at your frontal lobe and your limbic system, and how the two of them are constantly at battle with each other. So every single day, right? So to the day we die, right? There's always going to be a battle in the head, right? If he's got to say, for example, today, right? Great one for me. The alarm goes off, right? Now, my boy, I was away, I'm just back, I was away fucking watching my team in Europe. Don't do that again, that was fucking horror showing, right? So I came back last night, I was sitting out, chilled out, was up with the missus, chilling out, and wake up this morning, her alarm goes, and then I'm out, fucking chimp kicks in. Go turn that fucking alarm off. I'm going to get up. I've got to snooze, but if you're snoozing, I'm no snoozing. I say, you're snoozing, but so I'm out in self again, the chimp suit now. So no thing that, I understand you're just tired, you know, so you just need a wee sleep and all that, you know, like, fucking shit, get that fucking alarm off. And then the heat says, right, go up, we can go to the gym now, right? You've got a sore calf, but you can still go to the gym. And then I pick up the phone, you know, addicted person on the YouTube. You know, there's no point in me going to the gym. I mean, I'm going to see Sean later on anyway. I can't go to work because my scrim's on, because I'm a window cleaner, my boys don't put the scrim, blaming it on somebody else. They'll let the scrim's on the wash. I need to dry them off for that, right? And so the chimp kicked him big. The chimp ruled my life this morning. And I eventually had to get the finger out and I came, and I'm glad I've came. It's been excellent, but it's such a good book, you know what I mean? It's such a really, it's for them that's never read it, have a look at it. The Chimp Paradox, man.
Amazing. It was the first one that kind of put me, well, I'm a liar. I read a book called The Celestine Prophecy first.
I remember that.
I read The Celestine Prophecy. That was the first one that kind of, I was like, I kind of clicked with a wee bit. Then I read the Chimp Paradox, and then it was like, and it kind of gabbered my, and I started reading it. I love Leonardo da Vinci. I just love him. I kind of read his memoirs and stuff. And a lot of it's cryptic, a lot of it's kind of stuff. I mean, he talks about like anybody that tries to change themselves and anybody that goes out is going to be not ridiculed, but you're going to get greatness is followed like by at the start people going, look at fucking Nicky and blah blah, and he forgot his old ass, all that shit. Do you know what I mean? Which you get when you change and you start becoming a different person, because people don't get it. People don't get why you know why to go for a bit. Well, you know what? That's mental. Like and you do question yourself. Am I being a fucking idiot? Like why am I not want to do this? And then try to put boundaries in place with certain people, and you're people that you love. And you're like, I don't want to go out with you, but I do. Like, I fucking love that guy, but I know he's fucking mental or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the way the thing goes, and you've got to kind of, you really need to balance, as you say, you need to balance everything out and just lay it out and let the self come in, because the chimp's always going to win that first fight. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to win that first fight. And I think that is a lot of what's going on in Scotland now, is that chimp is probably running society, to be honest. Even with the politicians, that.
Very tribal country. Aye. But not just here, I mean, worldwide, it's very tribal. Human beings are very tribal by nature.
Definitely.
But especially in Scotland.
I know.
Whether it be down to the tribalism.
Look at the Romans go to Scotland and they went,
fucking built a wall, man. Built a wall to keep us in. I keep them in. I want to fight with them. And ironically, it goes through my wee style.
I know. Great
we were on the boundary. We were the ones to fight with them all. You know?
I know. No, crazy. But listen, Bob, it's been brilliant to have you, right? But obviously, I always just kind of give, as we come up to the end, I always just kind of give the guest the kind of last word. So, firstly, I would like to just ask you to maybe a wee message for the people, anybody that's watching this that's struggling, the stuff that me and you have been there through, a lot of stuff, a wee message to anybody, and then obviously just whatever, like whatever you want to finish up with.
Just to conclude, that it's not just, I'd like to say, if anybody's struggling with addiction, there's a solution, but the reality is all human beings struggle. You know, we've talked about the chimp paradox, we've talked about man's search for meaning, we've talked about Adler stuff with traumas. Human beings just go through those events. You know, every human being is a daily battle with themselves. But when it comes to solutions to that, you know, there's great books to read. You can recognise that. You still have the heat's bursting at times. You know what I mean? There's no quick solution that's going to fix you for the rest of your days, but it will definitely help you. But anybody struggling with addiction, there's a strong message for them. I mean, I can give it. It's like there is 12-step recovery programs out there, fellowships, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, SLFS, Sex Lovers, Addicts Anonymous. You know, there's so many, Gamblers Anonymous. You know, addiction is real. You know, there's nothing for iPhones yet, or for but it's coming. I'm watching a good documentary about it the other day on Netflix, talking about the addictive elements and how they're actually geared up to make people addicted. You know, so that will be something in the future. But there's places that they can go, and there is a life that, and it's not a cliche. I've got a life today that's beyond my wildest dreams, you know what I mean? Even just having to have a conversation with you today in a podcast today is something I thought I would never be able to do, because I never thought about ever doing it. You know, I've done a few podcasts now, which has been excellent. You know, this year alone, I've been to Arizona, you know, I've been to Texas. I'm just back from Madrid, you know. I've been to Pitlochry with the missus only a wee while ago. It's been excellent, you know what I'm talking about. It's a great life, and that's because all I did was a number of years ago put down a poxy fucking drink of beer and probably Buckfast, no beer, but you get the drill. And I've lately put down cocaine, you know what I mean? No smoked dope for years, and people say, I don't know if I could do that. I say, well, it's only one day at a time. And one day goes into 2 days, and 2 days go into a week, and a week into a month, and a month goes into a year. And for me, it's been 18 years after booze, all because I've only done that one day at a time, you know. For the cocaine, it's been nearly 7 years. It's about 6 months and 6 months and 10, 11 months. You know what I mean? I'm nearly a 7 year after that, because one day I stopped doing it. But today that I had to maintain it, and how to have been maintaining that, or actually progress, was just be going, simple as this: go to your local meeting, hear the message that people are saying. You've got 2 years in one mouth for a reason. Go in and fucking listen rather than talk all the time. Don't talk till you get the message. Once you get the message, hear what the solution is. The solution, you'll find out, is a 12-step program. And see, once you get a solution in your life and you're trying to help whatever, do a wee bit of service behind the scenes. You do already find your body. Just shop that. Thanks for having me, mate.
Brilliant. So thanks for coming on to Social Sessions, Bob, and look forward to seeing you again at some point. And just cheers for coming on, bro.
Thanks, mate.